but to give you that tool to help you so you can get yourself out of victim stance. There are so many times in my life people just did things for me. Therefore, I never learned anything. And so, what it really just helps me, my purpose here is to be that bridge, to be that leader, to kind of link arms with you, but to guide you back to yourself.
Your DNA is a wormhole. It contains a code that, when activated, opens up to the core of the holographic universe. As such, the DNA molecule is really a transducer of light. The more open the wormhole is, the more light pours through it. Like a torus, it both draws light towards itself and emanates it outward. Eventually, so much light will radiate through you that a wormhole itself collapses. The resulting supernova reveals to you your true universal nature as one with all creation. This is the highest role of the 64 gene keys, to illuminate your path towards this final glorious flowering, union with your own divinity. Then perhaps your eyes, too, will blaze with fire of pure knowing, deep compassion, and fearless freedom as you emerge triumphant like Saint Benedict from the cave of your old self. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. I'm here to share with you the beautiful transmissions from the walls of my cavernous heart and to witness the great frequency shift that we are moving into as a collective and the beautiful deep work that we are doing as we glide into the age of Aquarius. This is the Liminal Frequencies podcast. Let's go. The world is waking up. Enter Neptune and Aries, and enter thousands of different organized protests throughout the United States. Shout out to all of the people that showed up for this, including my mother. It takes getting to a really hard place before people actually put down their screens, stop what they're doing, and go outside with the rest of the world and just show up for the big transition. Now, Richard Rudd came up with a system of gene keys to unlock codes within our DNA to help us to activate our sacred gifts, shadows, and tools in order to assist with our process of awakening. And I had the pleasure of interviewing Sasha Greenidge, who is a certified mindset coach who uses the gene keys to help women who are ready to stop seeking validation from literally anyone and everyone outside of themselves. I wonder how many of you can relate. Sasha helps guide women to go all in on themselves and no longer be codependent and tethered to not feeling enough. She is here to empower self-love, independence, and self-reliance. It is important to her to show clients how to follow their design, to live their uniqueness without interference from others. Because of her ability to react quickly with intuitive knowing, Sasha can create through intuitive awareness. In this episode, we're going to unpack her journey with the gene keys, her journey breaking up with people pleasing. But before we get started, I want to share with you a story from Scandinavia called the Lindworm. Somewhere far away among a trillium forest was a kingdom with a king and queen, and things were very pleasant there. The problem was they could not conceive a child. They were very happy otherwise, and one day an old woman emerged from the forest and started talking to the queen. And she told the queen, "Oh, do you have a problem, my child?" She says, "I can't conceive a child." And she says, "Well, here is an easy solution for you. Take a bath and take some of the bath water and put it under your bed before you lay beside your husband. Make love to your husband like you mean it. Then take the bath water in the morning and water the garden. After 3 days, one red flower and one white flower will emerge. Eat only the white flower. Well, the queen does this. She follows the instructions. And when the red flower and the white flower emerge, something overcomes her and she ingests the red flower. And then she ingests the white flower. And after several days, she finds that she is pregnant and things go on normally. A midwife delivers a beautiful, healthy baby boy. But right before the baby boy is born, there is a black snake that comes out of her womb. And the midwife keeps it kind of a secret, and she takes the black snake, throws it outside on the ground, and nobody is to speak of the black snake again. Several years later, when the boy is ready to find a princess, to find the next queen, he gets on his horse and starts riding out into the forest. And he's disturbed by this big black serpent. And the black serpent says, "Hiss, me first. Hiss, me first." And so he's terrified and he goes back to the kingdom. And he asks the king and queen, "Was there something strange about my birth?" And so the queen summons the midwife. And the midwife says, "Oh, there was nothing strange about the birth." And then she thinks for a second and said, "Yes, well, there was this strange black snake that came out of your majesty, but that is all." And the king, he says, "We can't have the heir to the throne just out there like this, being treated this way. This is our son." And so they brought the most beautiful poets and magicians to charm this snake. And they charmed the snake into the bottom dungeons of the castle and left a space for him. And the problem was now they needed to bring these princesses in to meet the serpent and find him a wife. And they would lavish the princess with beautiful wines, the finest things, have a feast for her, plan a wedding day, bring her over, and then she would get eaten by the serpent, which kind of created a little drama in the village. And so we're going to sit with the story until the very end of the episode, where you'll find out what happens next. But since we are going deep into the portals and the wormholes of the Gene Keys, it is gotta be 3 a.m. somewhere. And it's 3 a.m. now. Let's do some shadow work. Let's talk about it. Let's bring our dragons to tea. So settle in, and we're going to have an amazing interview with Sasha. It's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Sasha. Thanks for joining us today.
So happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I would love to hear more about your journey into coaching through your experiences with personal development and entrepreneurial journey through working with the Gene Keys.
So my journey really started to come into play when I was about 37, 38, where I was really starting to get really hard, intuitive, we'll just say shoves at this point, that something had to change. I didn't have a sense of self. I was completely dependent on my happiness to others. I just did not know what made me happy. And when I reached out to a coach for help in my business, the one thing that she asked me, and it took me about a year and a half, was like, "What do you want? What do you want out of your life?" And I pretty much mentioned everything that my husband wanted, what my kids wanted from me, what at the time I was working in a network marketing company, what that mentor and leader wanted from me, and my job, everybody else's stuff. but I couldn't look within and even go back and say what it was that I wanted. And so at that point, we're coming up to midlife, which could be very dangerous for a lot of women or and men too, who don't know what direction they're going in. And luckily, at that time, I did find that coach because I started to learn about who I needed to be. And then she introduced the tools of gene keys and human design. And so I've just been studying my butt off about myself and really it completely opened up the doors of what I do want. And it's not this big mansion that I thought I wanted, like how
Mm-hmm.
society wants, defines success
Mm-hmm.
and happiness. And, it was something so much more peaceful and purposeful. And I knew I wanted to help people, but this was more authentic to me. And although it seemed like it was so out of like reach what my gene keys had as my path, it was like, but it's mine and it's my design. So that's what it is that I'm going to do. And that's all I have to do is follow it. And that design in my highest self is it's mine for the taking. And it was incredible because I now do know what I want. I know where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to go, people, many different people and women that I'm meant to meet. And it's been incredible. It's actually turned my life upside down and in many, many good ways. It's also helping me let go of certain people that don't serve me anymore. I'm better able, like we had talked about before we started, about honoring when my body's like, you need a rest and or you need to do this. So I'm learning to kind of stop and listen a lot more.
It sounds like, from what you were describing, was a difficulty receiving. I'm going to do these things for all these people and maybe manifest this life for other people, but an inability to actually receive the gifts for yourself, which many healers, coaches have trouble just receiving things themselves.
Yeah. And that was the hardest thing because I was really good at making a lot of other people happy and kind of just being tying my happiness to them and their needs. But through the work, you're digging into yourself
Mm.
and there's many things where I probably couldn't have helped them as much as I wanted to by just kind of looking out for them and not looking out for myself. So the way that I'm able to help so many other people and the strength and empowerment in which I'm able to help so many women grossly changed from what I was trying to do before because I was serving from an empty cup.
Mm.
I really wasn't honoring myself. And so many spiritual healers would tell me. I remember having a shaman, and he was like, you're so open, you're so wide open. He's like, you're not grounded, you're just floating, you're not, like you're just kind of in this in between. And it was like, you have to, so I was getting signs before this
Yeah.
that this was something that I really needed to address.
It's almost like when your energy is so open like that, you're a vessel that other people are allowed to store their crap in. And it's so important to
Yes.
seal that and heal the energy leaks that we have. And it just changes the energy that we feel throughout the day. Like even like things like ADD,
Absolutely.
they can be traced back to us just not being solid in our own energy and getting sucked into the world of 20 different other things that are going on.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that this kind of really helped was setting those boundaries with people and just kind of knowing like these are the type of people that I'm meant to be around. And I try not to surround myself with people who are not actively really working on themselves because that was something that I sat in my entire life of just victimhood, and just like, oh, woe is me, this is whatever. And it's so easy. So in Gene Keys, shadows for every single, for your life's work, for your evolution, all of these different gene keys, they mean different things. But there's a shadow, a gift, and a city in all of them. And we are so, I tell people, we're very intimate with our shadows. It keeps us safe. There's a comfort and safety, but some people just, they love to complain because they don't have to do anything about it. The problem with me is it took everything from me. I was stripped down to my soul and I was a shell of a person. And that was something that, again, and there's a significance to, that 40 cycle that they talk about in human design. It's called the Uranus opposition. And that was when, you start to get those nudges. Some people ignore them, and that's why they end up in a midlife crisis.
Yeah. Is it
And
a
they,
40-year
just
cycle?
perpetuating this,
Is it a 40-year
yes, the
cycle?
40
Yeah.
cycle. Yeah, so it's a 40 cycle, and we actually start experiencing that 3 years before whenever it is. We experience it at different times. Some people exactly at 40, they'll have that date. Mine is actually coming July 25th. So next year, but I've been feeling it and really going through it,
37. I'm
and so those
35.
were
I'm
hard
35,
nudges
but
for me.
37 has been a powerful year for me. Like I feel like I'm going to be doing
Yeah.
things then, like going to Egypt and having more initiation then.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So, wow.
So that, yeah, that's going to be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. And start to look, if if you look at, there's a way you can find out those dates, when it's created and when it happens. And so it's funny looking back because at the time at like 37, 38, I wasn't studying human design or gene keys as of yet, like just kind of getting started. But it was incredible. I was like, what is going on? And all I kept saying to people was, at 40, I'm not taking this crap anymore. I am not doing, XYZ anymore. And that is
The,
exactly what
the
happened. Like
people
40
pleasing is
came and I was
over.
like, yeah, yeah. I really stuck by that because that was like, that's talking about a whole different thing, is to look at your cycle because, those of you that know human design, it's like that 40 cycle and your Uranus opposition. There's some channels and gates that connect up that weren't there in your original cycle, and that's kind of giving the path of growth. So there's like a lot of power and growth there that there's no time to play around. It feels beautiful to finally like honor myself
Hmm.
and the people and the places and what's important. If it does not align, that's been like the biggest thing. If it doesn't align and it doesn't make me happy, I'm really starting to get rid of those kind of things. For instance, my job, which used to be so, so rewarding, I'm a teaching assistant that works with students with autism. But the environment and passion, when you finally get your calling and you're there for something bigger, and this is big, what I'm here to do, you're going to get shoved out. And that's what's starting to
Yes.
happen. And so I'm just trying to start to make those plans to kind of be like, all right, it's been nice. Like
Yes.
it's time to go, but trusting them, you
When you
know?
stop being in alignment with those things in your life that don't align with your purpose, it's uncomfortable. And I think we experience this in like during the full moon or during the new moon, where like we're just inviting something and calling something in. I do want to take a step back and go back to, the moment where you knew it was time for a change and the moment you were just like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
feeling really empty. And how did that happen? How did that unfold?
So being completely transparent, my marriage was hard. And it was really, excuse my French, it was shit. And I was at a really, really low place. This was pretty much the beginnings of me really feeling as though that I didn't want to continue with this job. I was in the middle of my network marketing, which was supposed to be a joyous thing of sharing this beautiful product. And it turned into something that kind of turned me into like ick.
Mm.
And so I was just at the lowest point. It was at the lowest point, and it's just like I really meant it when I was like I was this shell of a person, and the only thing that kind of kept me afloat was a few good people and my children, and that's what kind of kept me going. But I was existing, and I was like, okay, is this to be my life where I'm just existing? And then I think there comes a point where like your soul is screaming. It's quite evident when you look at your gene key profile and you start to understand it, that you can't leave that on the table. And so I was getting these nudges, 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 and that was kind of leading me into like, there's got to be something more to this, and I can't live like this. And because I was really just dejected, and I was like, who, like, it's like looking up for the first time and being like, what is it that I like? What makes me happy? I'm not happy where I live. I don't want to, this isn't good enough. And just starting to question things, and then kind of just saying, I can do more. You get to choose. And that was another really powerful thing that I struggled with when my coach told me. I was really actually angry about it. I remember her saying, you get to choose how you want your life to go. And I remember being so mad because I was like, well, I don't choose to be broke. I don't choose to sit here and argue with my husband. I don't choose to blah, blah, blah. And then you sit there and you're like, well, if you don't like your job, you could choose to go someplace else. No, it's not easy, but you could choose to go and do something else. If you don't like your marriage, you can choose to get a divorce. If you don't like people that you're around, you could just, yeah, you might hurt some feelings, but you could choose to do something else. And then as a result of these things, you could be happier.
Getting the have to out of the
Oh,
vocabulary
go
is
ahead.
really powerful. Yes, of course, we all need to maintain an income, but there's a million different ways that we could do it. We all maintain the families that we have, but there's a million different ways that we can do it. And if we can reprioritize our actions as choices, then it gives us more power in that we're not a victim anymore, just moving through life like I got to do this and then I got to do this.
Yeah, it was a series of checking off boxes. And I, looking back, every time I look back, and it's like it's like, oh, graduated high school, check, picked out of college, went to college, graduated, check, got married, check, had two kids, check. It was check, 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 check. And, but it was everybody else's boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I adore my kids so, so much. And that I would never, that would always be my box. But there are other things along the way, that fear of like having my own thoughts, just fear of like, could I do something and could I do this? Now I just kind of take that leap, especially in my specific profile. Like, I am meant to really go on these adventures. And if something doesn't go right, that's fine. At least I know now that that's not it, or that failure leads to something that is meant to be in my path. Whereas before, if something wasn't so perfect or whatever, I'm still working on that piece. But I'm learning that all these failures, they're meant to happen because that is how I'm meant to go. Like, fall down, get up, and then like it's like, oh look, a new opportunity. Oh look, like a new perspective on something. And so it's taught me to kind of honor that, and that this is your design. I can't wish for like another one. That, it's me, and it's going to be me based on like my Chiron and everything else. That's me for the rest of my life. This one line,
Yeah.
that's a major part of my profile. So,
And Chiron is the wounded healer, just for people that are listening, like the half man, half horse.
oh, okay.
Yeah, anyways,
And
Chiron
in
is
human design for your, that's your,
the asteroid is
yeah. So
highlighting the things in life that are hard, but you're healing through those difficult times.
yes. And in human design for the women, I think my coach had said it's like the croon. You just start to be develop into this, we think of this crickety old woman, wise woman, but
Yeah.
it's really, it's just your wisdom. You've kind of reached that wisdom. It's a beautiful thing. And, you know, because of all of this, I actually love my 40s. I think I'm having such a better time and experience in my 40s than I did in my 20s and probably all of my 30s. But this is it's actually it's just absolutely beautiful because I'm stepping into and honoring everything that I be, so to speak. And it's just so beautiful. And then to look forward to 50s, which is practically unheard of in society. It's crazy. Um,
Wow. Your teacher was talking about the transformation that happens when you turn 40.
mhm.
Was Chiron related to the transformation when you turn 40?
Oh, that's your 50s. So your Uranus opposition is your 40 cycle, and your Chiron is your 50s cycle, 50 and pretty much until you die. And that is pretty much all of you. And watching her, because she's going to be 50 this year. But again, about 3 years before is when you start to go through the cycle. So my cycle is right after my Uranus opposition kind of finishes, so to speak. I kind of jump right into, because usually it's 3 years before and kind of 2 to 3 years after, but I kind of jumped right into my Chiron with the way my design works. But I'm so excited and watching her. She's going to be 50 this year, watching her through her 40s and like how she's evolved and where she's going now is it's just watching this light of a person. And I never thought like, oh my God, I used to be dreading like, oh my God, 50s. And when I was 20 to be at 40 and be like, oh my God, I hear some of the ladies I work with that are 30 years old, like 20s, late 20s, 30s. And they're like, oh, my 40s, like I can't believe whatever. And I was like, to have that outlook, can you imagine to have that outlook? I kind of want my daughter to kind of look at it and be excited for each of these cycles. There's a Saturn return that's, I believe, in your 20s or 30s. I can't remember.
The 27 Club is
Mhm.
all of those rock stars like Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin that died around that time, maybe right before they went through the transformation and they were just living really hard. So that it can change the course of your life and your career, and it definitely did for me.
Yeah, and I think the narrative has to change where we start to really genuinely, authentically change the view on how we kind of view these cycles and what we go through, because it starts to, as you just kind of go up to your 30s and then 40s, it's like that old saying, oh, you're going over the hill. And that's not necessarily true. We don't rise to get to the top to kind of like swoop down into death. We're always on this incline. We're supposed to be growing. That highest self doesn't come in like 10 years. That's a lifetime of self study and work and things like that. We don't just go down to death. We go as high as we can until we reach that point. And that's it. I think these need to be celebrated. And I want my daughter to be like, oh, great. I'm looking forward to 30. There's something that, new mission unlocked. I don't know, like
Yeah.
something comes out of it. Like I'm just so grateful, so grateful that I can look at my 40s one way, because the way I look at it and the way my husband or some of my friends look at it, they're absolutely dejected. Oh my God, my hair is turning white. And that the one thing about my coach is she embraced it. She looks absolutely stunning, like
Mm.
embraced it, looks younger than she did when she was dyeing her hair when I first met her. And it's something to like strive for and look forward to. But looking around and people are just complaining and wishing for the glory days. And I'm like, what's next? What's next? I haven't even scratched the surface of what I'm here to do. And I'm like, the only wish I had is that I learned this sooner. So I could have like just enjoyed the other cycles more. But
Mm.
that's not what was meant to be. I'm meant to like kind of go through this and find this path so I can help others. But It's a beautiful process when when you kind of really look at yourself and where you're supposed to be.
And what did you find out about your purpose when you started getting into this?
Oh my gosh. So this is when I read this in combination with my coach kind of helping me look at my human design. But what I've learned from myself with the gene keys is I'm really, really meant to lead women, because that's who I'm choosing to work with, to their own self empowerment. So it's not me so much empowering them, it's me guiding them to, whether it be this tool, using this tool back to themselves to help them guide themselves out of victimhood and empowerment. And it literally is there's where my culture sphere is, and where, my, between that, my purpose and my radiant sphere, everything is pointing to kind of helping through my own experience to kind of help these women help themselves get out of this.
Mm.
So I think it's really important that we give people their power. So I could sit here and say to you, oh, I have all the answers. All I have to do is look at your gene keys and I can give you all the answers to your thing. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not what Richard, who created the gene keys, or Ra, who created human design, want you to do. I'm here to help you learn how to study yourself, much like a teacher helps you. They don't give you the answers, but to give you that tool to help you so you can get yourself out of victim stance. There are so many times in my life people just did things for me. Therefore, I never learned anything. And so, what it really just helps me, my purpose here is to be that bridge, to be that leader, to kind of link arms with you, but to guide you back to yourself. That's the only thing. And it's been extremely powerful for so many. And I get excited when I get to work with, there's one girl who's 19. She's still literally going through like her IQ sphere, which is like 14 to 21. She's 19, but she gets a chance to kind of not sit in those shadows too long. That's still kind of developing, but she has a much better sense of self than so many of her peer, because she has studied her life's work and evolution. She knows where it comes up. She's learning to take ownership for her stuff, because that's what the gene keys teaches you. How are these things coming up for you?
How beautiful to have those tools as a young person to be able to
Yes.
introspect. I know it can be a little intimidating. I've definitely read my readings on human design and gene keys, but do you want to give more information for somebody who's maybe just have never really looked into it and doesn't quite understand how it all works? I know there's a lot of moving parts with astrology and human design and how they're all interconnected.
Right. So it includes, the I Ching, a lot of, like you said, the astrological stuff. Also, like for the logical people like my daughter, quantum physics, there's frequency in all of us. So for my logical people, it just makes sense. It is overwhelming, but that again is a choice. So, what I like to do is have people kind of read what Richard gives you. He gives you a good PDF. If you print out, there's like 2 or 3 pages along with your stuff. If someone chooses to work with me, what we do, and everybody's different because all of our gene keys are different and the way we study is different, is we take this so slow. There's nothing to rush. And this is something that you go back to over and over and over again. But it is almost like a map, and I show you which direction you're going at, because otherwise you just see a bunch of spheres with lines and it makes no sense. But it actually kind of goes in a path. Your activation sequence, you're going up to your Venus sequence, and then you go to your Pearl sequence. So there's a direction that we go, and we take our time. I remember with this said girl, she wanted to spend, like, it was almost 3 weeks to a month on her life's work sphere. Like, you're not rushing.
Mm.
And it's something we go back over and over. It's something that I constantly, because the first four, your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose, and the line numbers after it, after those numbers after the decimal, make up 70% of who you be. So if you did nothing else but study that, your life would change. And that's a guarantee if you put in the effort to do that. But what I do is I help go through that at your pace and help you study. If, Richard is very, I find it so poetic, but like if you have trouble understanding his like whimsical kind of like text and while you're reading or listening to it, that's where I help guide you through and coach you through a lot of things because this dredges up a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we like to kind of just put off to the side. And this is something that he actually advises that you go through with somebody. So it's really, really important. It's something you could go through yourself, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't, especially the Venus sequence, which really goes into childhood and relationship type things that are really, really tough. And, so, but it's a
And
beautiful process to watch people like the lights go on, and their gifts, to see their gifts. And even me, I was like, oh my God, that's me. Really? Like, that's really me. Like, some of it you see, and some of it's like, that's what I'm meant to be, or that's why I keep undermining myself. My two shadows, the conscious ones I have, are indifference and inertia. So even like as I was talking to you about like, oh, feeling a little tired, like that's my signal. Like that's my shadow. That's actually my life's work and my evolution shadows. I know those start to light up. I stop. Like we stop and like it's like, okay, what's coming up? Whereas before I would be out for the count for 6 months, like anxiety, depression, all of these things. Now I'm just like, all right, slow it down to almost a stop and really start to contemplate what comes up. And then I actually study those same spheres that I've studied 50 million times. Something new is coming up, but it's almost because there's a growth happening. And I can already know like the rest of this year is big. And that's why my shadows are like, bing, bing, bing. Let's stop, let's be safe. But I know that. I know it's just
yeah.
like, I just need to put it in its place and just kind of be like, we got this, we're good.
So I think I understand the Venus sequence as when you start your life, you create the intimacy patterns with your primary caregivers and attachment styles that's going to characterize the rest of your relationships.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I'm sure a lot of people are just immediately thinking of either fights with their parents, an embarrassing time in their teen years, something in elementary school that happened, somebody that hurt you, and that comes up. And so it goes through those 7-year cycles. So what you said was exactly accurate. But think about how triggering that is to certain people, and that we kind of bury it or it kind of gets put away. But think of how it would be if you address that. In one of mine, the line 3 comes up a lot in my profile, in my gene key profile, but in the Venus sequence, one of mine, and for an important sphere in the Venus sequence, he calls it the escape artist. So anytime something emotional comes up, and this was hard for me to admit, but it's true, I want to run. I want to escape. I have a conflict with my husband. I don't want to talk about it. Whatever. I don't want to talk about it. I'm running. I'm gone. And I believe the second line is like that too.
I know some of
And
those.
you kind of have to confront a lot of serious things. Yeah. So you have to confront a lot of things about yourself, a lot going in a lot deeper, and just kind of really, and this one we're taking with her specifically really slow, especially since she's still in one of them. So, but for me, it was really hard and triggering. And even now, like if I have a disagreement with somebody or something pops up or I'm triggered by something, I know exactly where to kind of look. That's probably one of the hardest sequences to kind of go through. I am still kind of working through my Venus sequence, and that's something I'm really studying in myself and will for a really, really long time. Like my activation and my pearl, I'm comfortable with, but like knowing that the heart of my, because I'm so sensitive, so there's a lot of things that I buried or that just kind of go away. That Venus sequence is really something that I'm really still working on because
Mm-hmm.
it has to do with relationships with everybody, and ultimately it's us. We can blame all we want. People do silly things, people make us angry, but how we deal with it or how we choose to deal with it, or he has these beautiful ways of kind of saying that things don't work out and that's okay, and when to, beautifully let go and not have it be such a messy thing. But it's a, it's a hard sequence. It's a hard one, and that
Wow.
one I strongly suggest having somebody, yeah, going through that. And that's what I do. I go through that. Like that's why there's a massive, massive shift after you go through all of this. You're just unlocking so many doors and so many possibilities. And it doesn't mean, oh, you're going to quit your job like me, but it might mean that I need to be asking for something better within my job because I'm more than capable of doing XYZ. You know what I mean? It just, all the possibilities that we have that we're not even tapping into, that I just wouldn't have known certain things. And yeah,
I'm curious if there's something in somebody's gene keys that shows them having resistance to the transformation and the inner and the healing process.
yeah, that's in there. That's in there. Through every step of the way. When you study your shadow, like the first thing is to get that I tell everyone to get, it's like a requirement because you can't do this work without it, is to get Richard Rudd's Gene Key book. So when you do go through that and you kind of look at your life's work sphere and you're like, okay, it's Gene Key, mine is 9. You flip to 9 and it literally gives you the shadows, your gifts, and your cities. And those shadows, when you're reading it, it really shows you, you'd be like, how is this going to tell me? It tells you exactly whether you have it repressively or reactively or sometimes both. And really going in and studying, and then that work that we kind of do together, it really helps kind of like I help coach and guide through all of that. But it does share that the stuff that comes up when you read about your shadows is something else. It's on
Yeah.
another level. So, but then you
Yeah.
know how things are, how things come up, like I said, and then you can kind of see the gift, which is what nobody really sees sometimes. Is like, all right, well, I'm intimate with it, but now you know how it comes up, but now where can I go from here? And that's the beautiful part, is
Mm-hmm.
like going up to that gift and seeing all of that beauty. It's amazing.
It's like almost a blueprint for your soul, like a code. You're like, I have this code.
That's it. That's what
Just
I
go to
like to
page
say.
19
That's what I
and
love to say. It's like a myth.
yeah. And you're right. If you were just to tell somebody how it is, they wouldn't listen, they wouldn't take it in. But for me, I have this experience with working with the Akashic Records where if I can bring somebody in and I can walk them and guide them into this place, they can receive a lot more information from their guides than they can just from listening to me. And it's like it has to be your idea to move through the transformation. It can't be somebody else's.
Right. Yeah, and that's so important. But we're at a time where things are changing, and it's more, we're more into this individual self-study kind of thing. And it's beautiful when you get to go through it yourself. You're studying and you have somebody, right there with you, because you're going to kind of, a lot of stuff, as I call it, it's just a lot of stuff comes out. But to really have that guide there, it's really life changing to know, like, where it is that you're meant to go, and this study of yourself. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to do all of this reading or all of this whatever. But the second you really start to look at yourself, It's actually almost fun. Didn't you want to know, like, how is it that I could be successful? How is it that I could be happy? Well, literally, somebody's handing you yourself, your blueprint, as you said.
Yeah.
I love to call it your compass and map, and I'm just your little guide. And why wouldn't you want that? I don't really look too much at what anybody else is doing. I love to take talents like, what you have and what I have and what faces that people are willing to give and working together as that collective, it's taking everybody's different authenticities and just kind of bringing them together and working, just working together to bring something amazing in here. And so it's like, why wouldn't you want that to kind of like discover who you are and what you're meant to be? You put blinders on and you're not looking at what the Kardashians are doing, or you're not looking what
Hmm.
who's I don't know, Tony something, whoever that
Tony
big
Robbins.
mogul is, that business person.
Tony Robbins.
You're looking at yourself. Yes,
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, that's it.
Right. Like
And
getting
you're,
caught or
because you're looking at yourself, and I think that's the most important thing.
you don't want to get swept away in this like guru mentality of like this person has all this power and all this money and they're going to tell you how to live your life. It's like you have all of the data within you and all of the codes, and it's just about unlocking it, which this is what the show is about. I want to help people find their way, and it's whatever frequency that you resonate with the most, but it comes from a listening within, from a really feeling into that. And so that's usually the last question I ask people is how, can people tap into these liminal frequencies, these codes, these subtle energy waves that are allowing them to connect with the vibration of who they are, of what their soul is singing for.
The first thing before, like, even reaching out is really what Richard calls contemplating. And it's not all meditation and all whatever, it's just having your mind shut up for like 5 seconds and just asking God, universe, whatever, how can you help me? And asking the right questions. And and that was big for me. It was to just not keep asking how. Like I've learned to kind of not really ask the how, almost like I know that I'm gonna get the right answers. I know this is what I want to do. What put me in the right direction? You just start to it's a lot of faith, which I didn't have before. And it's just asking the right questions to the right being, whoever you're studying. And I did that and I got my answer
Mm.
and my person. And I just really implore everyone to just get quiet and just think whatever question comes into your mind and things like that. It's not a meditation, but when you really quiet that mind, like, because I had a lot of stuff buzzing. I'm so broke. I'm so whatever. I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know this. It's just I said I know I'm meant to go here. It's almost like put me in this right direction. And if that's something that's hard, that's also something that this work will help do, because you're starting to study yourself and then you start to ask yourself, oh my gosh, especially on your unconscious side where your radiance and your purpose are. I didn't know that person. This person that is meant to go out and be this adventurer and do all of these amazing things while falling down and getting back up. That wasn't me. I was stuck in my conscious side of let's be safe. We like our safe foundation, everything else. And so that's something that you're going to start to look
Mm.
at. You're going to say, oh, I kind of know something about me. But then
Mm-hmm.
here's this other piece that you're just going to be like,
Yeah.
wow,
Your
I'm meant
wi-
to do this.
your
Some people are meant
wildness
to
was in
write, some
there.
people are meant to influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
embrace it now because this is why I'm just meant to go being my first and foremost line, which is the line 3. That's with me the rest of my life. And it kind of takes precedence now, like as that main line, my conscious line in my Uranus opposition. That's where I'm meant to follow and go. along with the line 5, which is leading with practical solutions. Hello, Gene Keys. So I really think contemplation is really, really big. And then just finding a guide. Anybody that's like, I'm going to sit here and I have all the answers, because I don't for you, because you have to study that. Your answers are just with you.
Yeah.
And so I like to say that I have that guide. I'm still studying myself, but through my mistakes and through my own contemplations, I'm able to help you. And to just kind of be aware of that. People that are like, I could study your whole thing and then hand you a sheet of paper and say, this is what you're all about. You're not going to get it. You're not like, you'll get surface level stuff, and you won't get the answers. That going through it.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes you have to, like if you've trained for a marathon, you went through the work and you crossed that finish line. There's nothing like that. Nothing on the planet.
Absolutely.
Than being awakened finally. Like
Absolutely.
you're there. So I love to work with women that are ready to do that kind of work and study themselves and really just kind of find themselves again, so that way they don't have to look to anybody else, because we are so powerful. The women that I'm seeing that are like, whoa, what you can do for yourself and for others is massive, but they wouldn't have seen that. So it's really getting that word out there and just saying, here, let's get to work on you.
Amazing. You've shared so much, and it's such a powerful message and so much wisdom. And I know your journey is just unfolding to some tremendous places, just unearthing your wildness and just being ready to step into this really amazing purpose. So I thank you so much for joining us on the show, and I'll be sharing some links for your practice and how to work with you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, so good. Thank you, Sasha, for helping us demystify some of this Gene Keys. And it's so awesome how we can just start to dive into our own work. And to me, if you're you listening, it doesn't really matter how you decide to do it. There's so many ways. And whatever resonates with your frequency the strongest, to take that and go with it, feel into it, listen to that little voice within you that wants to resolve your ancestral trauma or resolve your limiting beliefs. Whatever it is that is calling to you the most, that's your intuition telling you that you're ready to uplevel on something. I listened to a podcast from Richard Rudd about his project, the Gene Keys, and he said lots of therapists nowadays are educated in the Gene Keys and able to walk people through their Venus sequence, which is what we discussed on the episode about how the earlier times in your life when you were mid-childhood and your attachment style and your connection to your primary parent was the most important and formative years for you. And so we have a lot to work with. We have a lot of content to work with. I know in my practice, which is often exploring those teenage years, it feels like that is something that really calls out to me when I'm working with people, is to unravel those formative times, allow us to receive whatever codes and frequencies that we need. And when I tap into the akashic records, we can just ask for whatever codes and frequencies somebody needs to demystify that trauma, so it's not a tangled knot at your heart, but it's something that your body is aware of and able to integrate and process in its own time. So the Lindworm, there was terror on the kingdom because all of the women that were being taken down to the dungeon were being eaten, and they was slurping and crunching them. And eventually the king sent a message to the shepherd, and the shepherds daughter, and this was a poor family, he wasn't willing to let her go and be a victim of this situation. But she knew she had to go, and she had some intuition, and she decided to initiate herself into this marrying a serpent, which I guess this is a theme in my podcast. I don't even know. But she decides to go. And as she's walking through the forest, she sees the same old lady. And she says, "What troubles you, dear child?" And she says, "Well, I have this situation and I'm very scared. And I'm scared to meet my fate." And she says, "Tell the king that you require 1 year and 3 days to prepare for this. And during that time, you're going to embroider several white gowns, and the gowns are going to have red and white flowers on them, and pay a special attention to the heart of the gown." And she said, "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to wear the gowns, and when the serpent asks you to take off a gown, you're going to take off a gown, and then you're going to say, 'Shed a skin for me, prince,' and then shed another skin." And she's told her to bring a scrub brush and a sponge. And when everything is said and done, she's going to hold the creature in her arms. And so when the time has come, she draws the baths. She comes in, she's beheld by the gaze of this serpent, and she bravely takes off the layer when he asks her to take off a gown, and she says, "Now shed a skin for me, snake, my prince." And he's never been talked to that way before. And this just results in agony and screaming and chaos as he sheds skin after skin, as she sheds gown after gown. And she puts him in the bath of ashes, and she scrubs his skin all the way down to the flesh. And after she's been scrubbing him for hours and the flesh is tender and raw, she holds the serpent and puts him into the bath of milk, and she collapses on the floor and falls asleep. And she finds out in the morning that there is a man, a prince, who has spent his entire life cloaked in a skin of black scales, someone who has been cast into the darkness for so long. And now there is a new heir to the throne, and the peace and sanctity of the village can be returned. All the creatures that have run away from the fear of the snake are returning. And so when we dive so deep and we do such hard work, right? Time is now. It feels like the healing portals have opened, and it's time to do your work so you can move into this next level and this dimension of our new earth that we're moving into. And when we cast things away in the shadows and we sweep them under the rugs, they just get worse and worse and worse. And so tending to your own inner serpent is so beautiful. And I'm here for you if you need me. I love guiding people through this kind of work, and it feels a lot lighter. It feels like literally when we can come together and witness together something in the field, in the aura, when we can make this a combined effort, it's like looking for something in the dark with two flashlights instead of one flashlight, instead of one little pin light. We have the beams to help us to find it. So thank you for listening. I love to hear from you. Please drop a comment or a 5-star review, and have the most incredible rest of your day.